Right, hi folks. Hopefully I haven't managed to chipmunk myself. But I guess I'll find out when I upload this. Um, right, in the kind of trying to find out what good Archer and Wedger and Garish and all the anti-mask people, the toxic nurse, the Botox head one, they've all jumped on the COVID thing while we've been a captive audience. So I've been like looking into this, and I did see that Kate Shamami, whatever her name is, on Danny Jones's channel, he put something up that Mohammed put up, where she's banging on about God as well now. I mean, why is it? Well, they're all banging on about God. Um, I don't know. I'm sniffing a huge rat with all of this. It seems like divide and conquer, and so like in sort of looking into this, I found this video. Now I've had to sort of like put an arcade effect on it because I don't want to get copyright on it. So let's just jump into this. All right, this is going to, well, in a lot of ways, I believe a more honest level. Because at least they're not lying about what the ultimate agenda is here. But just watch this a minute. This is over in Canada. Okay, this was in the spring of this year. So let's just add this. I'm going to skip a few minutes. There we go. Oh, I've already skipped a few minutes. Okay. Blimey, that actually worked. Might be a bit loud actually.
Aylmer, population 7,500. A rural community in southern Ontario where a wide range of religions have coexisted peacefully. When the town forefathers settled on the slogan, Proud Heritage, Bright Future, they likely didn't envision a day that looked like this. November 7th, 2020, 2,000 people from across southern Ontario descended on the once sleepy town, protesting public health lockdown measures. They called it the Freedom Rally.
Okay, so we've seen these springing up all over the place. We've had that toxic nurse, we've had Piers Corbyn, we've had John Wedger at the beginning, and then I don't know what happened to me, burnt out or backed out, one or the other. We've got them all there, haven't we? The Mark Steels, all of them that have been kicking around the old Truther Woofer movement with their varying things. They've all sort of come together. I mean, Jeanette Archer is butthurt that she's not part of this. Little bit like John Wedger was, when like he was for a bit, wasn't he? I can't remember, a couple of years ago or whatever. This is a community that is now divided, so it's political. It's political. Where they weren't before. They were perfectly peaceful before. Now, do I agree with everything that's happened with the plague days? No. Look at my bank account. Of course I don't. Of course I don't. But I'm not going to get fanatical about it. There's no need. There's no need. If nobody has ever changed anything. But just watch this. This is horrifying.
Leading up to the rally, the town of Aylmer declared a state of emergency over fears of violence. That decision turned Mary French, the mayor, into a target. You were subjected to threats.
No one said they wanted to kill me, per se. They said, you know, we're watching you, watch your back, don't step out on your front porch of your house, we know where you live, don't leave.
Oh, the crap I get off of these weirdos. Yes, it's really quite charming. I enjoy it.
Town hall, because if you do, we'll be watching you.
We have rights. They exist always and forever. They don't go away ever, automatically, just because somebody wants it to go away.
When you saw the images of the thousands of people descending on Aylmer during that freedom rally, what were the thoughts that were going through your mind?
I cried. It's heartbreaking. That's all I can say.
Heartbreaking because it has pitted citizens.
I mean, it really is, because I would hate that here. We're a densely populated area here, and we're completely diverse. So you'll find every person of every type of background here. And I would hate for us to be. I'm glad that the Wedges and the Archers and the Mark Steels and and all these types, that they didn't get a grip. They didn't get a grip, because I would hate to see this where I live, because we all get along just fine, apart from me and my shouty next door neighbours. Um, but they don't know that I don't get on with them. They just annoy me. Um, but I would hate to see this. This is like pitting neighbour off against neighbour, and this is it's political, really, isn't it?
Citizens against each other. As the protesters flooded the downtown streets, one of the mayor's neighbors was surrounded for trying to spray the protesters with his hose. The men breaking this up.
Yeah, look, he's like, I don't want any violence here. Just get out of here. Get off my front garden. It's off. I'd be the same. I'd be the same. I want no part of this nonsense. Go away.
In the reflective vests are not police officers. And you might notice that some in the crowd have a distinctive way of dressing. They are members of a small but controversial Aylmer church, whose leader, Pastor Henry Hildebrandt, has emerged as a hero to the anti-lockdown crowd. Many have no connection to his religion, but are relishing his politics.
We are many, they are few.
The pastor has been celebrated for his message of resistance at rallies across the province, in Toronto, London, Cornwall,
God bless you.
and at this massive one in his hometown of Aylmer.
We want our God-given freedoms. Freedom taken away from one of us is freedom taken away from all of us.
Same old mantra. Same old mantra. Now, considering what Gerish said and like Wedger says, is this the agenda here?
Pastor Hildebrandt is with the Church of God Restoration on the outskirts of town. The church is part of a tiny fundamentalist Christian sect that was formed in the 1980s. Its founder, Danny Lane, was a
Oh God, is this who? I mean, it's sounding a little bit like the Wong situation, but you can read stuff in when it isn't there. But I mean, his church was fundamentalist without a question, and the stuff that Wedger comes out with, well, it's just sick.
self-described former addict and drug dealer in the U.S. Followers have a strict and literal interpretation of Scripture, with a history of excommunicating those who break the rules. There are just 21 congregations around the world, mainly in Mexico, the U.S., and Canada.
Hang on, there's one in England.
For the most
there.
part, the church has coexisted.
Hang on, I missed that the last time. Hang on, was that one in England?
Dealer in the U.S. Followers have a strict and literal interpretation of Scripture, with a
That
history
Wales
of
or in
excommunicating those who break the rules. There are just 21 congregations around the world, mainly in Mexico, the U.S., and Canada.
Oh, I need to look at
For
that.
the most part, the church has coexisted with the diverse religions that call Aylmer
There was definitely a little pixel on the UK there.
home. But COVID-19 has changed everything.
Here we are. Amen.
For months, Pastor Hildebrandt has defied lockdown measures,
Oh,
holding
who's that?
passionate services in the parking lot, taking on the police,
An evil, tyrannical, oppressive
This is really feeling quite familiar, isn't it?
system has pitted our police officers against its own civilians.
and issuing warnings to the government.
You'll have to get ready to burn us at the stake because Christians are known to never give up. Never.
Isn't this kind of like, all right, not burn at the stake? I mean, because we know John Wedger actually thinks that the witch trials in Pendle were more fitting for justice than actually the judiciary we've got now. But this is like the mantra that we've got here, isn't it? It's like, we'll never give up. We're going to build an army. Rah, 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 rah. Like, we're not as religious as many countries. We're not as religious as America. We're not as religious, I believe, as Canada. And many other countries. But is the underbelly here religion, or is it politics with this lot that we've got? Because it's seeming quite familiar to this.
Give up! Never give up!
At times, the pastor has even opened the doors to preach inside.
When tyranny becomes law, disobedience or resistance becomes duty.
My hope is filled.
And where have we heard that before?
Police have made more than a few visits to the Sunday services,
Pastor Hilbert, this is a summons here for the Church of God.
handing out thousands of dollars worth of tickets and summons for violating public health orders.
So you tell the judge.
No, sir.
Sounds a bit like Piers Corbyn, doesn't it?
That's yours. You know where it is. That's your court date, okay?
Thank you, sir. Think about what you're doing.
In one instance, a police officer inside this van was surrounded by a crowd that included the pastor's son, Herbert, who can be heard instructing them.
Don't let him leave.
Others in the crowd taunt the police officer.
Where do you live? Where do your kids go to sleep?
And who does that? All of them. All of them do this. They taunt people and they...
This is what a coward is!
calling
There are
them.
also allegations of outright violence involving the pastor's son.
Some cracked ribs, it's kind of hard to breathe sometimes.
Herbert Hildebrandt has been charged with assaulting an 84-year-old man
Oh,
who
how-
had put up a pro-mask sign.
How Christian of him. Now, you don't have to agree with it. I mean, I was not really down with the mask thing myself. But, I mean, honestly, kind of people did do it and are still doing it, and you have to respect their views. Like, if they're frightened, then they're frightened. I'd wear a mask around Tesco's, just because I didn't want to frighten people. Didn't think I was going to catch anything from them, but I didn't want to frighten people, because we've seen what's been on the news 24/7. Oh, and it's back again now with the new variant. But come on, an 80-odd-year-old man, no need. We're allowed to have differences of opinions.
Near the church.
It's tough.
Mayor
When I
French
ran
says
for
all of
mayor, and
this
I've been on
has been bad for business.
We do bring in a lot of people from outside of Elmer shopping. They love to shop here, but they're saying we're not coming back because
What a
they're going to
shame.
be around people that don't wear masks or don't believe in masks.
Some Aylmer residents have had enough of the Church of God restoration. Regularly on Sundays, they've taken to lining the highway in front of the church as a form of protest.
They all get together every week without masks and no social distancing.
Pastor Hildebrandt and his Church of God restoration may be making headlines for firebrand messaging around masks and lockdown. But this former member claims that the church is actually a cult that has more going on than the
What does that sound like? I wonder. Oh, I think this is a wobbly old path these idiots in the UK are trying to take us down. I don't think they're going to have the same effect. I really don't. But any negative effect is a negative effect too much, and they are having a negative effect on people's well-being. I'm sickened by it all, to be honest. I'm over it. Well, I'm not over it at all, because this has to be exposed. These people have to be seen for what they are.
their high-profile battle to pray inside during a pandemic.
What I want the people to know is watch out, because he's going to manipulate your mind. Henry Hildebrand ain't no godly man. He might say all kinds of spiritual things, but he ain't no godly man.
Oh, would this be a little bit like John Wedger that tells people that he wishes that he could show them horrific images and videos of children? I'm not going to say what he said, but we know what he said, because I think there's a live video that I'd done on that where I just had the audio of him when he was with Charlie Ward. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And we've seen the fallout with the Wilfred Wong thing. We're going to see the fallout's there with the Wedger thing. I think they're all connected anyway. And it won't be long before something really horrific happens with Jeanette Archer and her tribe, her cult.
No godly man.
Chris, whose identity we're protecting, left the sect recently and says the church that has become so vocal about fighting for freedom doesn't give much freedom to its own members.
They control everything.
And where do we see this? We see this with all of them, that if you actually start questioning or you start saying anything, you're a chomo protector or you're a Satanist. That's what you get called. That's what I've been called everything, haven't I? Nikki Cooper really likes to try and tip me over the edge with Baby Killer. Her days are numbered on that. I've had enough of it. I've had enough of it. She's an idiot. Ugh, they're all awful, awful, dreadful people.
They controlled how we paint our house.
Paint your house?
Yes, it's supposed to be white, only one color. They tell you what colors you wear. They tell you what cars you drive and what cars you don't drive.
Members are banned from using the internet. And along with the modest dress, Chris says even the undergarments they wear are dictated by the church.
That sounds very much like the Mormon church, doesn't it? I doubt they'd be happy to be attached to this, but I don't know. I'm not a Mormon, but it sounds familiar with the Mormon.
The man's underwear and t-shirt have to be white. The woman bra and underwear all have to be white. And the vest buttons in general have to be very plain. The man have 7 buttons and the ladies have 5. If you go over that, you're trying to be worldly.
Trying to be worldly is frowned upon, and Chris says marriages are arranged, vacations must be approved, and that those who leave are shunned.
Oh, I
And
do.
this?
I do apologise.
Chris says the lockdown protests, which have exposed thousands of new potential followers to the
Sorry, that was a sneeze there. I tried to move the microphone out the way, but if you heard any squeaking, that was me. I've got a stinker of a cold, as norm.
church, are actually a fulfillment of one of their prophecies about the apocalypse. The Church of God Restoration believes that their ranks will swell in the days leading up to the end of the world.
Lord, protect us now.
Oh no! All cults have the end times, don't they? There's always, usually with a cult, there's the end of the world thing.
Help us all, dear God, Lord, to fulfill our place in this life.
God, I'm sneezing.
The Church of God has made headlines for being at the forefront of the anti-mask movement.
It's not about the mask thing.
It's not about the masks.
No. It's about attracting more people to their church, that their prophecy will be fulfilled.
See, now this is what I'm sort of starting to sway that way, that I actually think all of this is actually like a political, fundamental, religious kind of thing. And like when we've had the toxic Botox nurse and you got like all the others, the UK columns, the Mark Steels, whatever. I think this is more this is more like, I don't know, political Christian movement, and it is about recruiting, and it's worked a treat. It's worked a treat. Look at Jeanette. She went from a couple of hundred people on her Telegram, and within a matter of what 3-4 months, she's got over 2,000. It's terrifying. I mean, she's a nut job. You can prove her lies over and over and over again. The same with Nikki Cooper. Brian Gerrish, he's a slippery one. You can't really pin him, but it'll be there.
That's it. All of a sudden, the sky will split open and Jesus is going to...
Well, I believe it'll be there. I just think he's not as obvious as the Wedgers and the Wongs and the Archers and the other charlatans that we've got. I just believe he's not as obvious. But I believe it's probably there. Political aspirations, maybe, because there's nothing he likes, Brian Gerrish, than to hold a crowd. Like we had it all with the Bradbury Pound and all that. You know, Freeman of the Land stuff and all that crap. All that done was get people in contempt of court.
take this church to heaven and the rest will go to hell.
Coming up.
They'd rather have seen me die physically. At least my soul would go to heaven.
Preaching faith over medicine.
I believe that God is our physician.
When W5 continues.
Sorry, excuse me, Mike. I've got to apologise for all the sniffing. Got such a stinker of a cold.
My mom died as a 50-year-old. This belief system that promised her an eternal life robbed her of whatever else she could have lived and experienced.
The cemetery in Aylmer, Ontario, is where many of Robert Thiessen's family members have been laid to rest. The Church of God Restoration, which has made headlines this year as the anti-mask, anti-lockdown church, also strongly encourages prayer over medicine.
My grandmother, who had a congestive...
And where is Archer trying to take people? She's trying to take them down the path that they've got to be scared of the NHS, homeschool your children, which is the quickest way if you're not doing it properly to get your kids taken into care, having poor attendance. It makes, without you being all over the internet and having views like these guys do. What's she trying to do? What is she trying to do? I'm not pro-vaccine. We know that. But am I anti-medicine? No, I'm taking medicine myself at the moment. Need to take it, otherwise I'm really poorly sick. Not on death's door or anything, but I need it. So, is it going to get us black and white with them if this is allowed to carry on?
Heart condition. She died a horrible, miserable death. She literally drowned in her own fluids. Her legs swelled up because she didn't have the medication. My grandfather had type 2 diabetes. He literally wasted away to skin and bones because...
How awful. Absolutely awful. And then we've got that email going around when Jeanette is wanting to video someone committing the final act against themselves. I mean, where are we going here? Because it doesn't look good. Like, of all the places we could go, with all the things that's wrong with Big Pharma, with all the things that's wrong with government and the world and everything that's wrong, why this path? The most dangerous, frightening path of all of them. I don't get it. I don't get it.
You know, the body doesn't take in nutrients. And then the next big one was my mother.
Robert and his family were among the first members of the Church of God Restoration in Aylmer. He grew up to become a minister with the church, alongside the controversial current pastor, Henry Hildebrand. But Robert left in 1994 because the doctrines and rules no longer made sense to him.
You remember the date you left?
Yeah.
So he's basically watched 3 members of his family die in front of his eyes from preventable illnesses. Or if they weren't preventable, their passing could have been peaceful, not torturous. How is this ever right?
Yeah, because it was, I can't believe I'm emotional on it, but it was a really hard decision. I struggled with that decision for over a year. I knew it would devastate my parents. There was an absolute shunning. My mother didn't talk to me for a long period of time. They'd rather have seen me die physically. At least my soul would go to heaven and live on for all eternity. But to walk away...
Isn't that what Jeanette was implying, if that email is correct? And I'm still going to put a question mark against it because I don't have the email. It wasn't sent to me, so it's no disrespect to Shelley Moe or the person who it was sent to. It's just I'm always very careful on these things. But over helping someone, wasn't that Jeanette's mantra that actually it'd be better if you just die and you're going to be in peace over helping them? It's just so awful. It's just so damn awful.
Is almost committing the ultimate sin.
When Robert's mother got breast cancer, he says, he begged the church to let her get medical help.
She had gaping open sores where the cancer just ate through her skin. And the smell in the house, I can't describe it to you. It's worse than a butcher shop. And I had to get permission from the church to just put some, powders on it to keep the smell down.
You had to get permission from the church to send a nurse into your mom as she was dying?
Yes. Because we didn't want to violate God or the church somehow,
Robert says his mother needlessly died in agony. In 2002, after the death of an infant from a curable disease made headlines in the U.S., church elders changed their rules to allow medical treatment for children. There have been other controversies.
Sorry, guys, I missed that bit. I had to go and get a tissue and blow my nose.
As well, including allegations of child abuse. In 2001, the Children's Aid Society swooped in and removed children from a home of Church of God members in Aylmer.
Police dragged the 7 screaming children from the family home because social workers objected to the parents' use of a belt, sticks, and an electrical cord to spank the children.
Oh, lovely, if that's true. Wonderful. I mean, I'm no fan of social workers, but I think we've moved along from beating our children with belts and such. Weapons.
Children's Aid investigation began after an anonymous tip that a child wasn't receiving proper medical care for an accidental burn. The report says the parents were treating the burn with a mixture of water and bleach, and that the child was struck and bruised after refusing to sit still while that mixture was put on.
Wow. Bleach on a burn. Oh my God, can you imagine how painful that would be? Poor little kiddie. If that's true, poor little kiddie.
The report also says the child needed 7 medical appointments to ensure the healing of this burn, an indication of the seriousness of the injury. A young Henry Hildebrandt defended.
It's just like a 3rd-degree burn. Bleach. Poor little mite. Oh, Jesus. This is awful.
The church's treatment of children.
I think there's many people in Canada that perhaps don't believe necessarily in the Bible, but still feel that it is their obligation and right and responsibility to discipline their children properly.
The family was eventually reunited after a promise that corporal punishment would no longer be used.
Wow.
What was the messaging that was told to parents about how to discipline their children when you were in the church?
Spare the rod, spoil the child. And that starts with infants.
Yep.
I'm not talking start spanking when they're 2 years old.
I've heard this. I've heard this from a friend that I've got in America, and he's a lot younger than me. He's only in his mid-20s. And he was part of, he's a gay man, and he was part of an evangelical sort of fundamental Christian group. And he was very clear that corporal punishments actually starts with babies in arms. It's absolutely horrifying. It's awful.
3-year-old. I'm talking about infants.
It's a horrifying thing that you're saying.
Yeah. There were these little sticks, dowels, and it's just used to hit the legs of the child.
Yeah.
And as they get older, then things like leather straps are used.
Do you believe that that still goes on in the church now?
100%. Yeah.
Allegations of child corporal punishment, shunning of modern medicine, and defying pandemic lockdowns, all in the name of God. The man at the center of it all, Henry Hildebrandt. He has been the pastor here for almost 30 years. In 2011, he was named an apostle, one of 11 in the church hierarchy. Pastor Hildebrandt agreed to sit down for an interview in the very church that has so divided the town of Aylmer.
Are there times where it's...
That's the worst thing. Well, it's not the worst thing. It's like all of this is terrible. If it's true, because we don't know if it's true. This is media. But I think we could see when you got an 80-odd-year-old man being sort of getting cracked ribs for a little sign in his house saying, "Be kind, wear a mask." I may not agree with that. But would you put a finger on an 80-odd-year-old man? No, of course you wouldn't. This is nuts. And it's communities being divided. And I don't know. I mean, we can see we can see what Jeanette's doing. Families are being divided. So does it start there? I guess for Jeanette it does. If you can divide families, then you could spread this infection into the wider community. It's disgusting, and John Wedger's no better, is he? In fact, they're all as terrible as each other. This is awful.
Considered appropriate, your interpretation of the Bible, to inflict corporal punishment on an infant?
I am not going into that. I'm just sticking by whatever the Bible says.
Do you believe that an infant or a baby should be subjected to corporal punishment?
That's absolutely not what we should be talking about, because we have to see what the context of the Bible teaches.
No, that absolutely is a question. It's a yes or no, isn't it? Do you actually think it's okay to physically harm babies in arms? It's like, is that so tricky? Do we need to go to scriptures for that?
After 9 minutes of failing to provide clarity on the issue of corporal punishment of infants, Pastor
Scumbag.
Hildebrandt finally offered this.
I believe a child should be trained from day one on, and there's 1,000 ways how to do it. Children should never be beaten up, and children should never be mishandled or mistreated. Never, ever.
But when we asked about whether that Children's Aid investigation in 2001 had led to changes in their practices,
we were before Bible-believing Christians, and
Absolutely not. We know that. It's absolute rubbish if you try to spin it another way. Of course not. These are fundamental Christians. You're not going to change them. Not going to change them.
we're Bible-believing Christians now.
Which means what?
It means that, what I just said.
It means it's okay to inflict physical harm on babies in arms. Wonderful. Aren't you a delight? Ugh.
So the position has not changed.
We were Bible-believing Christians before that, and we're Bible-believing Christians now. Nothing has changed as far as standing on the Bible.
We've heard from former members that their loved ones have died because they have not sought medical care for conditions that could have been treated.
I believe that the Bible teaches us that God is our physician. So that's what we have been saying all along, is don't put your trust in the doctor.
Isn't this...
Well, okay, so we know I am sceptical of Big Pharma and science to a certain degree, because we've seen myriads of medicines come in through the ages that have absolutely been counterproductive. But to deny, does that mean a nutritionist or a homeopath, or does that mean all of it? I can see my my signal's going a little bit here. But so you just put your faith in God. It's not about a nutritionist, it's not about anything. It's just like you carry on in your merry way. Put your faith in God. No science whatsoever, no medicine whatsoever. Come on. If this guy, right, I don't believe it. If this guy needed an abscess taken out of his tooth, like in his gum, that fucker wouldn't be doing it with a drum outside and yanking a tooth. No way. No way. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. But this is what these people do. It's like, do as I say, not as I do. And I believe that's the same with Jeanette Archer, isn't it? Oh, don't celebrate Halloween. She celebrates Halloween. Don't celebrate Christmas. Celebrates Christmas. Like, shut up. Ugh.
It's a dangerous message, Pastor Hildebrandt, to tell people not to trust medicine.
Thank God we taught them that there is something higher than the doctor, which is that you can trust in God, that God can help you. But we will never say that if you pray that God will heal your cancer, because he might not.
Well, I guess he won't. Not that the cancer industry isn't a whole sick industry all by itself. But come on, don't tell me if you've got something wrong with your teeth, you're gonna have a man outside with a drum like in the Dark Ages, so they can't hear you screaming, and they're gonna yank that tooth out by its root. Nah, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Don't believe that at all. Do I believe that medicine is a sound science? No, absolutely not. It's an evolving science. Do I believe it's been hijacked by Big Pharma? Absolutely, I do. But this isn't the way. This isn't the way either.
Former members who've left the Church of God Restoration, describe the life in the church as being like being in a cult.
It means zero. First of all, they don't even know what that means. Secondly, the people that describe us as a cult, if they would read the Bible, they would find that Jesus meets every point of being a cult.
That's quite possibly true. That's quite possibly true. But let's not forget, how many years ago has this scripture been rewritten and rewritten and rewritten? And I'm not a Christian, but even I can get that you can get lost in translation, and Chinese whispers on stories and events can be changed because history does that all the time. We see that with war history. History is on the side of people who won. What the fuck?
Pastor Hildebrandt's sermons are capitalizing on a growing discontent over lockdown measures.
In like Flynn, just like the Wedgers, just like the Archers, just like the Mark Steele, just like the toxic nurse, Shamami woman, like all of them here in the UK, we've been a captive audience, and people fallen down this conspiracy hole, and it's gone well. I mean, it's gone well for them. As far as community and humanity's gone, I don't think it's gone very well. But you can only hope we're all going to get back to normal, and then we can all get our normal lives back. We can all get out and about. We can all be travelling again like normally without having to make it a business trip or whatever. And we can all just like be normal again. Because that's the only thing that's going to actually stop this nonsense. Well, it won't stop it because now it's like a snowball effect. I just hope it doesn't turn into an avalanche.
Definition of a police state, a totalitarian state.
Taking on police, the medical community, and the government.
Anyone that thinks we haven't been in a totalitarian regime forever anyway is a bit nuts. Come on now. We haven't needed the plague to tell us that.
For policies like the forced quarantine in hotels for international travelers, which he makes a show of accidentally calling concentration camps.
I think it is when you arrive in Canada, they put you in those isolation, that's where it is, those isolation camps.
People are waking up, and when they heard about these not these, what are they called, these...
Even the phrase now, waking up or wake up, absolutely sets my nerves off. Like, ugh, shut up.
Isolation camps.
Well, you did this line during your sermon yesterday. You can't pull that one on me today.
Okay, when they did these isolation camps, our dear Prime Minister is so far off with that. And our older people, our elderly, are saying, Pastor, that's Hitler's, that's signs of Hitler, that's signs. I said, I believe you, because it's just too close for comfort.
But this is taking things over the edge if you're comparing Justin Trudeau to Hitler.
I'm not saying he's Hitler. He's way too young to be Hitler. But I'm saying, for what?
What do you mean he's way too young for being Hitler? I don't understand that comment. When did Hitler get his fundamental, horrific ideas in his head? After the First World War? After he was a failed artist?
Hitler did, the actions that led up to the concentration camps. It didn't start with a concentration camp.
None of this feels very godly to me.
Which kind? What part of it?
None of this.
All of it?
This anger, this attacking of the police.
Yeah, no, all of it. She's right here. None of this seems that godly. What part of it? All of it? All of it, mate. All of it.
And of the government and of this doctors. It doesn't feel godly to me.
When Jesus walked into the temple, kicked over those tables, and the money flew all over. That wasn't very godly, was it?
Well, actually, it was because, like, and I'm not down with my scriptures on whatever variant they've been written in, but was he after the money lenders, the people who were ripping off people? So that was for him to get quite angry. Would have been quite a godly act, wasn't it? It's the love of money that's the root of all evil, not money itself. Maybe I don't. I mean, I absolutely know I don't know all the scriptures, and I'm very happy living like that. To
Was
be
the Son
fair.
of God. And right now I'm kicking over tables, left and right. And as soon as we're done that, we'll have the temple cleaned up and we'll have a temple like it should be.
How about we just do a little tour? Come with me, whoever likes to.
See, and they're words that people could get easily sucked into, because we know that there's an imbalance. We know there's an imbalance. Never can be rectified imbalance, in my opinion. You just sort of like, you have your time on this rock, you try and get through it as best you can, and take the joyful moments as and when they come along, and take the kicks and the knocks as and when they come along as well. But you can see how this is appealing to people. Just that bit, not the Hitler bit or anything else. I yeah, it's just so tricky, isn't it?
You've had hundreds of people in this church in defiance of public health
Gosh,
orders.
Yes.
You've been
sorry,
involved
sniffing
in
again.
a
I'm so
rally
sorry.
with 2,000 people all merging together.
Yes.
Don't you feel some sort of responsibility that the word that you're spreading is actually causing an issue with COVID increase?
No, not at all. It's the opposite. I actually feel that I thank God that I had the opportunity to do that, because somebody in this country needs to wake up the people.
Or does he thank whoever that he's got a situation here where he can actually recruit people and set people off against each other? I don't know, just throwing it out there.
Do you believe that
Oh my
these
God, I'm so sorry for the sniffing.
times of COVID and
It truly is disgusting. I'm so sorry.
the flood of support that you're getting are all part of a bigger prophecy about the end of the world?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I believe that it is gearing towards, we know that the end is coming. We know that the end is coming.
When?
And I definitely believe that the Lord will show himself strong as the end nears,
again?
because he is not coming back for a broken system. He's coming back to pick up his children that have stood faithful. He's coming back for that.
We are all essential. We are all essential.
Are you at all concerned that the people who are being drawn to your church now aren't necessarily here for your religious beliefs, but more for your political beliefs?
It is a possibility. It's a possibility, but I have a golden opportunity.
Shut up. He knows exactly. He'll be getting neo-Nazis and all sorts of nonsense in there. He don't care. Why would he care? Numbers is numbers. Numbers on a piece of paper here, mate.
While they're here.
Wow. So basically, while I've got this clout, I'm going to use this clout for my own agenda. Which is what? Political, religious agenda? I don't know.
I haven't been back here probably in over 10 years.
Robert Thiessen's decision to return to Aylmer and speak out is driven by his fear that the messages coming from the church he once dedicated his life to have become dangerous.
At first, when I left, I just believed they were a cult, not a dangerous cult. But the way I see them now antagonizing the government and upping the ante, their revelation teachings that they have right now is very apocalyptic. And it's like they want this to happen. My concern is as they become more extreme, it's no longer fighting against the spiritual forces that are against us. It's now literally seeing the government as that agent of Satan or of the devil.
The Church of God Restoration has now hired a legal team, claiming the lockdown measures are a violation of their constitutional.
Seeing the government as Satan. Who do we know who thinks like that?
Right to freedom of speech and assembly.
Okay, so that's that. Again, it's quite a long video, but I can't get any more entrenched in the bitching and the backbiting with the likes of Nicky Cooper and the idiots. I just can't. Yeah, they've really got to me. It's leading up to the anniversary of my daughter's death. And every time, which encourages her, I guess, when I say every time she calls me a baby murderer, seems to hurt a bit more. But I guess that's the agenda. I guess that's her whole thing. Now, it's not my fault that Nicky Cooper went on John Wedger as the old mate who was procuring people for 500 quid a piece. It's not my fault that she said that. She said that. It's not my fault that we can't make any sense of when she stopped being a clipper and when she didn't. That's not my fault. She's put those confused messages out there. But this has to stop, Nicky Cooper. One more time. And if you start taking the piss about malicious communications anymore, I've been really, really patient with you. Really, really patient with you. One more, and I will get you arrested. Because this isn't going to be I am not your open season to lie about. Because wasn't I the daughter of Sir Roger Gale? Where's that gone? What happened with your great research with that? What happened with that? Oh, it was utter bullshit. It was crap. You carry this on, lady, in its loosest terms, and I will send the police round your house. Andrew Gine actually dropped her thing against me for when I spoke out of turn about transgender and transsexual people. She dropped that because she couldn't actually stand what you and T were doing. But you've continued to do it, and I let that slide. I let that drop because I don't believe in running to the police and going boo-hoo. But this is enough now, lady, in its loosest terms. It's enough now. One more. You take all of those videos down, or I am going to get you arrested, and we will be going to court. So, outside of that, folks, sorry about that little addressing of the Cooper Snooper, Clipper Rooper. So that is quite scary in itself, isn't it? And that's in Canada. It's like an infection that's spreading everywhere. Horrifying. Absolutely horrifying. Right, anyway, that's me out. Look after your lovely selves, and I'll catch you again. Maybe later on. I don't know. What day is it today? It's Tuesday, isn't it? So yeah, I've got an early finish today, so maybe catch you later. Anyway, look after yourselves. Bye.